Want the avoidant begging for you. Do this tonight. You know that feeling when you're dealing with someone who's hot 1 minute, cold the next. One moment they're looking at you like you're the most captivating person they've ever met, and the next, they're retreating into their own little world. If you're around someone with avoidant tendencies, here's what not to do: chase them, push, plead, or worse, try to convince them that you're worth it. Tonight, I want you to try something different, something that flips the entire script. Instead of leaning in, lean back. Show them, not through words, but through your energy, that you're good. That your world is full, whether they're orbiting close or drifting a little. Why? Because avoidants aren't allergic to connection. They're allergic to feeling trapped. The moment they sense your happiness isn't tethered to their mood, they feel safe, and ironically, that's when they start to chase. This isn't about playing games. It's about reclaiming your emotional center, about remembering that the most magnetic person in the room isn't the one who clings, it's the one who chooses. So tonight, instead of over-explaining, instead of chasing, instead of reacting to their distance, create space. Fill that space with your own life, your passions, your plans. Let them feel the subtle shift in power, not because you pulled away to punish them, but because you're too busy living to need their every breath of attention. When they look over and see you glowing without them trying, that's when curiosity kicks in. That's when their fear of closeness gets overridden by a fear of losing you. And that's when they'll start moving toward you fast. When you're dealing with someone who has avoidant tendencies, your natural instinct when they pull back might be to close the gap. You feel the sudden absence, and it triggers something deep inside, a mix of anxiety, insecurity, and the urge to make things right immediately. You might send another message, ask what's wrong, or try to re-establish the closeness you felt before. It feels logical if someone is drifting away, go after them and pull them back. But with an avoidant person, this instinct can be exactly what pushes them further away. Avoidants value their independence above all. They can enjoy intimacy, but the moment it starts to feel like someone else's happiness relies on them, alarms go off in their mind. This isn't about you personally, it's about their internal wiring. For them, too much closeness too quickly feels like a threat to their autonomy, and the chase, even when it comes from a place of love, starts to feel like pressure. And pressure is exactly what makes them withdraw even more. When you stop chasing, you send a very different message. You're communicating that you respect their space and their process. You're not trying to fix their mood or force them to engage when they're retreating. This doesn't mean you become cold or cut them off entirely. That's just another form of reaction. It means you maintain your warmth, your self-respect, and your life without making them the center of every decision you make. In practice, not chasing might look like this. You notice they're taking longer to respond to messages. Instead of double texting, you focus on your day, your friends, your goals. If they cancel plans, you don't guilt trip them or spiral into overanalysis. You simply shift your focus to something you enjoy. If they seem emotionally distant, you don't push for a heavy talk in that moment. You let the space exist without trying to fill it with reassurance-seeking behavior. This approach isn't about playing hard to get, it's about emotional self-control. It's about sending the subtle signal that you're whole on your own and you won't crumble if they're not as available as you'd like. This is powerful because it diffuses the sense of demand that avoidants often feel in close relationships. And once that demand is gone, they can choose to come closer of their own free will. Here's the paradox: the less you chase, the more they can relax in your presence. When you're not rushing to close the emotional gap, they can explore connection at their own pace without feeling engulfed. That safety is what allows their natural affection to come forward. Avoidants aren't incapable of love or commitment. They just need to know that closeness won't cost them their sense of self. It can be tempting to think that not chasing means doing nothing at all, but that's not quite right. You're still engaging. You're just doing it from a place of strength. You still reply to messages, you still share warmth, you still enjoy moments together. The difference is you're not acting out of fear of losing them. You're acting from a calm, confident place where you know that your value doesn't need constant proof or validation from them. By stepping back from the urge to chase, you also protect your own emotional energy. You stop pouring effort into a dynamic that only creates more distance, and instead, You allow space for them to meet you halfway. This subtle but powerful shift changes the entire rhythm of the connection. You're no longer running after someone who's walking away. You're standing still, letting them notice the absence of your pursuit and giving them the chance to turn around on their own. Leaning back is very different from pulling away. Pulling away is a defensive move. It comes from hurt, frustration, or the desire to protect yourself by shutting down. It communicates to the other person that you're upset or punishing them. Leaning back, on the other hand, is calm, intentional, and confident. It's about holding your position in the connection while giving the other person breathing room. You're not running after them, but you're also not slamming the emotional door. You remain present, available, and warm, just not in a way that smothers or chases. When someone with avoidant tendencies starts to create distance, it's usually not because they've stopped caring, but because they're protecting their own sense of autonomy. They may need to process their feelings privately or simply recharge from too much closeness. If you respond by leaning in harder, asking more questions, or seeking reassurance, they can feel trapped. If you respond by retreating entirely, they might take that as a sign you've given up or you don't care. Neither extreme works. Leaning back means you find the middle ground. You give space without withdrawing affection. You don't press for conversations they aren't ready to have, but you don't pretend they don't exist either. You keep living your life, focusing on your own priorities and joys, while staying emotionally open for when they decide to step closer. This balance keeps you grounded and communicates emotional security, something an avoidant partner deeply needs to see in order to feel safe. In practical terms, leaning back might look like responding to their messages at a natural pace instead of instantly, and without overanalyzing the timing of their replies. If they're quieter than usual, you don't fill the silence with a flood of your own words. You let them have that quiet while you enjoy your own activities. If they take longer to make plans, you don't wait around in limbo. You make other enjoyable plans for yourself and let them know you're happy to see them when schedules align. It's a way of saying, I value you and enjoy our connection, but my world is not on pause waiting for you. This approach not only makes you more attractive, because independence is magnetic, but it also takes away the pressure they feel when someone is emotionally leaning too heavily on them. Avoidants often expect relationships to come with an unspoken demand for constant closeness. By leaning back, you show them that closeness with you doesn't mean giving up their space, which allows them to feel safe moving towards you. The energy behind leaning back is crucial. If it's laced with resentment, they'll sense it. If it's done with the intent to teach them a lesson, it becomes a game, and games breed mistrust. True leaning back comes from self-assurance. You trust that if they're right for you, they'll want to move closer naturally. You also trust that if they don't, you'll still be okay because you're not dependent on them for your sense of worth. Over time, this steady, non-pressuring presence starts to shift the dynamic. They realize you aren't trying to control their pace, and that actually makes them more likely to accelerate it. They see you as someone who is emotionally safe, someone they can approach without fearing that closeness will be met with demands or expectations they're not ready to meet. And ironically, the very space you give them by leaning back becomes the thing that draws them closer. Emotional independence is one of the most attractive qualities you can project, especially when you're dealing with someone who has avoidant tendencies. It means that your sense of happiness, fulfillment, and stability isn't tethered to another person's behavior or mood. You can enjoy their company deeply, even cherish their presence, but you don't depend on them to feel whole. This creates a kind of quiet confidence that people instinctively respond to because it signals strength without arrogance and openness without neediness. When your emotional well-being is tied directly to someone else's actions, you unintentionally hand them control over your state of mind. If they're in a good mood and close to you, you feel happy and secure. If they pull away or seem distant, you feel anxious and unsettled. This up and down emotional dependency is exhausting for you and suffocating for them. Avoidants, in particular, are highly sensitive to feeling like someone's happiness relies on them entirely. To them, it feels like a heavy responsibility they can never fully live up to, and their instinctive response is to create more distance. Being emotionally independent doesn't mean you stop caring or become detached. It means you build a strong enough foundation within yourself that you can remain steady regardless of their fluctuations. You cultivate a life that is rich and fulfilling outside of the relationship with your own friendships, hobbies, career goals, and passions. You have sources of joy that are completely unrelated to them. So, if they need space, you're not left feeling empty or abandoned. You simply shift your focus to other things that matter to you. In practice, signaling emotional independence can be subtle. You might show it by not overreacting when they take longer to reply to a message. You might demonstrate it by carrying on with your weekend plans, even if they cancel last minute. Rather than spiraling into self-doubt or resentment, you could also express it through the way you communicate, speaking about your life, your goals, and your plans with enthusiasm without needing them to validate or approve them. These small moments reinforce that you're in the relationship because you want to be, not because you need to be. The impact of this is twofold. First, it removes the pressure that makes avoidance withdraw. If they sense that you can handle space without unraveling, they feel safer being close. Second, it increases your attractiveness. People are drawn to those who seem self-sufficient yet open to connection. It's the difference between someone who clings for reassurance and someone who chooses connection from a place of abundance. The latter has a magnetic pull because it feels like you're offering love as a gift, not as a transaction. Of course, this requires inner work. You have to honestly assess where your self-worth comes from and whether you're relying too heavily on someone else to validate you. Building emotional independence might involve strengthening your personal boundaries, rediscovering passions you've set aside, or even learning how to self-soothe during moments of uncertainty. The more you invest in yourself, the more stable you become in any dynamic, because your happiness isn't at the mercy of another person's emotional weather. When you radiate this kind of steadiness, an avoidant person can see that intimacy with you won't mean losing themselves in your needs. They realize they can enjoy closeness without fearing they'll be responsible for your every emotional high and low. Ironically, it's this independence, not constant pursuit, that inspires them to come closer. They aren't moving towards you because they feel obligated. They're doing it because they genuinely want to be near someone whose life is already full and vibrant, and who sees them as a complement, not a cornerstone. When you stop centering your attention on what the avoidant person is doing or not doing, you create a powerful shift in energy by filling your time and thoughts with your own life. This means actively investing in your passions, relationships, and personal growth rather than passively waiting for them to re-engage. Avoidance can sense when someone is sitting in emotional limbo, hoping and watching for signs of closeness. That kind of waiting sends the message that your happiness is on hold until they decide to give you more attention. By contrast, when you keep moving forward and living fully, it sends the opposite message, that your life is rich and fulfilling regardless of their momentary distance. Filling the space with your life is not about distraction for distraction's sake. It's about choosing to prioritize things that energize you. This could mean diving deeper into hobbies you love, taking on a new challenge at work, spending more time with friends who uplift you, or exploring new experiences that excite you. The more you do this, the more you tap into a sense of self that isn't dependent on someone else's availability. This independence is deeply attractive, not only to avoidance, but to people in general, because it shows that you're a whole person with a vibrant world of your own. When you make your own life the main event, you naturally reduce the urge to micromanage the relationship or overanalyze every interaction. You stop waiting for texts with a knot in your stomach because you're busy doing something meaningful. You stop wondering if they'll make plans because your calendar is already full of things you're excited about. And here's the paradox. This energy doesn't push the avoidant person away. It often pulls them closer. When they see that you're not sitting by the phone waiting for their next move, it changes the dynamic. You're no longer the one trying to close the gap. Instead, they're the one drawn toward you to be part of the exciting, fulfilling life you've built. It's important to note that this doesn't mean excluding them or making them feel unimportant. It's not about coldness or proving a point. It's about naturally balancing the scales so that the relationship isn't the sole source of your emotional stimulation. When you're in a place where you genuinely enjoy your own company and the life you've created, the connection you share with them becomes lighter, freer, and less pressured. That's exactly the environment where an avoidant feels most comfortable leaning in. There's also a psychological effect at play here. People value what they have to earn. If your world is accessible, interesting and fulfilling without them having to do much, it creates intrigue. It makes them want to be part of it. Avoidants are often wary of relationships because they fear losing themselves in someone else's needs. But when they see that your life is already full and that you don't need them to fill a void, their fear eases. They can approach without feeling like they'll be swallowed whole by your expectations. The other benefit is how much this strengthens you. By keeping your focus on things you can control, your actions, your time, your choices, you're building resilience. You're not handing over the steering wheel of your emotional state to someone who might, at times, pull back without warning. Instead, you're in charge of your own joy, and that steadiness makes you far more magnetic than chasing ever could. Over time, this consistent focus on your own life sends a quiet but unmistakable message. You're with them because you want to be, not because you have to be. That difference changes everything. Curiosity is one of the most underestimated forces in human attraction, and when it comes to someone with avoidant tendencies, it can be the factor that shifts the entire dynamic. Avoidants often pull back because they fear being overwhelmed, controlled, or needed too much. But when they notice you thriving, smiling, and engaging in life without leaning heavily on them, something changes. Instead of seeing you as a potential source of pressure, they start seeing you as a source of mystery. They begin to wonder what you're up to, who you're spending time with, and what's making you so fulfilled. That wondering can be far more powerful in drawing them closer than any direct pursuit could ever be. When you're constantly trying to close the gap, you remove the element of curiosity. They already know exactly where you are, what you're feeling, and that you're waiting for them. There's no question in their mind, and that certainty, while it might feel safe to you, often removes the very spark that draws someone in. By allowing space and focusing on your own life, you reintroduce an element of the unknown. They don't have a complete read on you anymore, and human nature is wired to want to resolve that. Creating curiosity isn't about playing games or manufacturing scarcity, it's about genuinely engaging with life in ways that light you up. This can mean exploring new interests, saying yes to spontaneous plans with friends, traveling, or simply radiating more joy in your day-to-day activities. When they see that you have your own sources of happiness, they can't help but wonder about the experiences you're having. And more importantly, they'll start to think about how they can be part of that world. Curiosity also works on a deeper emotional level. Avoidants often guard their inner worlds closely, so when they see someone else who isn't always broadcasting every feeling or waiting for constant validation, it sparks respect and intrigue. They start to see you as someone with layers, someone who has depth and independence. That perception makes the connection feel less like a responsibility they have to manage and more like an adventure they want to explore. The power of curiosity is that it flips the dynamic. Instead of you wondering what they're doing and why they're distant, they start wondering about you. Instead of you moving toward them to bridge the gap, they begin leaning toward you to find out more. This isn't about making them feel insecure or fearful of losing you. It's about shifting the emotional balance so the connection feels mutual and alive rather than one-sided. To make curiosity work in your favor, you have to let go of the need to constantly explain or justify your choices to them. You don't have to announce every detail of your day or narrate every plan you make. Sometimes it's as simple as sharing just enough to show you're living fully and leaving the rest for them to discover over time. When they see you laughing in a photo with friends, or hear you mention a new project you're excited about, it plants a seed in their mind. I want to know more about that. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't just work on them, it works on you. When you live in a way that naturally creates curiosity, you also keep yourself engaged and inspired. You stop waiting for their attention to validate you, and you start finding joy in experiences for their own sake. That energy is contagious. It draws people in because it's real, and avoidants, despite their distance, are not immune to the magnetic pull of genuine enthusiasm and a life well lived. Over time, that pull can become irresistible, leading them to move toward you not out of obligation, but out of a genuine desire to be close. So remember, creating attraction with someone who has avoidant tendencies isn't about chasing harder, convincing them, or trying to fix. The way they are It's about leaning back, keeping your center, and showing through your actions that you are a whole, vibrant person with a life that excites you with or without their constant attention. The moment they see that closeness with you doesn't mean losing themselves, the fear begins to fade and curiosity takes its place. And when curiosity grows, so does the pull toward you. Your greatest power is not in getting someone to choose you, it's in becoming the kind of person who chooses themselves first. When you operate from that place, you don't have to run after anyone. The right people will move towards you naturally, not because they're afraid to lose you, but because being near you feels like freedom and joy at the same time. Thank you for giving me your time, your focus, and your trust today. I hope you leave this moment not just with ideas, but with a renewed sense of confidence in your ability to inspire connection without sacrificing yourself in the process. You are worth showing up for. And the moment you believe that, the rest starts falling into place. Take care, go live your life, and let them be the ones who can't stop thinking about you.